don't know me, my name is Brianna and I'm a designer and I like other things too. And if you do know me and this is not your first time seeing me, hi, welcome back, I missed you. Okay, now that we have that introduction out of the way, let's get into today's video. I'm actually kind of excited about this one. I'm excited about every single video because I love you. Alright, so if it wasn't already very obvious, we're going to be doing portfolio tips today. With that being said, before we get into it, I do want to lay down a couple disclaimers. Number one, this is going to be for graphic designers, so if you are not a graphic designer, then the algorithm has failed you on this one. But you can stick around, have some popcorn, fold some laundry, have a good time. You can do that, I wouldn't stop you. And second little bit of disclaimer is that this is really for beginners, so if you're a seasoned designer, I don't know that this is for you. I really can't promise anything. But like I said, if you wanted to stay, I wouldn't stop you. Okay, now that 50% of the viewership is gone, let's get into the tips. Number one, just do it. Okay, no, I'm actually so serious about this because I feel like sometimes the hardest part of doing anything is just starting it. And I think that this is especially true for portfolios. I understand why. I feel like there's a lot of procrastination because not only are you trying to find your best pieces of work, and I mean, there is already enough imposter syndrome as a designer, but you also want to find a really stylistic and really cohesive way to present the work. So I get why this takes a bit of time to start and to put this together, but trust, it's not as hard as you think. The first part to this, I would say, is do your research. Really go online, go to Pinterest, go to Behance, go to Dribbble, and just take a look at how other people are presenting their work. There's never going to be any clear step-by-step on how to actually go about doing this, and of course it is going to depend on your own style and what it is you're showcasing, but this sort of serves as a really good jumping off point. And you know what, I'll do you even one better. In the description you will find some free to use templates on portfolios. There might be one, there might be several. Let's see what I can come up with for you by the time I post this video. But sometimes it's just good to start putting together a layout. It's not your final portfolio, nobody has to see it, but really just putting together anywhere from like 15 to 19 pages that have a cover page, an about me page, a lot of other pages for what is supposed to be your work, and then a thank you page, because we always remember the thank you page. Okay, so tip number two, make the examples of your work look dynamic. Now, what do I mean when I say this? When somebody's coming across your work for the first time, you want to make sure you wow them, you want to make it a spectacle. And here are some of the ways that you can do it. Number one, and I think that this should be standard, like this should be the first step, make sure you have mock-ups in your portfolio. I am not joking. When you are a designer, all a portfolio is just showing real-world examples of your skill set. And showing mock-ups is a great way to do it, it's an easy way to do it, and sometimes it's the only way to do it. Lately, I've been really loving Unblast as a resource for free mockups. I mean, it's been incredible. I've also been using them in some of my recent YouTube videos if you want to see examples of what the mockups look like. I know some of you were asking, and also this is a really great chance for me to redirect you to one of my other videos. But there are a ton of resources out there that can provide you with free to use mockups. The second part to this is you want to make sure that your work is taking up anywhere between 75 to 90% of the page, 100 if you can swing it. Of course, you do want to leave space on the page for an explanation as to what the work is, what your process might have been, if it's a group project, what role you played, and what tools you used to create whatever it is you created. But because you do want your work to be the focal point, the centerpiece of it all, you want to make sure it takes up a really large space. Another way to do this is do not be afraid to play with negative space. Now, I think that goes without saying for a designer, but I feel like there are really interesting ways to use it that can help engage your audience a little more. But it all depends on your style. For example, if you're really into the more modern, more minimalistic look, then you want to make sure there's a lot of negative space. That way it creates more of that contrast and sort of makes whatever your work is the focal point. But let's say your designs tend to lean more towards maximalism or more loud and bold designs, then maybe making page layouts where there's not a lot of negative space could actually be the answer. You want to create an engaging space where every single thing on the page is something worth looking at. It's all going to come down to your own personal style. For example, with me, I do like to lean a little bit into the modern sort of look, but I also really like bold expressions of my work. So for me, what it ends up looking like is I use high contrast photos that take up the majority of the page, and I do leave quite a bit of negative space around my work, but my work still takes up a large portion. Okay, step number 3 is make sure you come up with a really solid and cohesive body of work. Now, part of having a portfolio is to showcase your range of work, but you want to make sure that it all sort of looks good together. So I think some really easy ways to do this is making sure you have a good color scheme. Now, for me, I like to use the Adobe Color Wheel tool. I'll link it below. Another really great resource that I learned about recently was Coolers. Funnily enough, I learned it from a gaming channel, not a design channel, but you can come up with like really cute color palettes that way. So that's also a really great resource if you don't want to do the thinking yourself, which I get it. I don't like thinking ever. You also want to make sure that you're showcasing a really strong understanding of type, so having a cohesive sort of typeset throughout the entire portfolio, making sure that when typefaces are paired together, they look right together, and making sure that the type you're using does showcase your own style as a designer. I think that's also really important. Like if you're going for a modern, clean look, using a modern and clean typeface. But let's say you have more of a modern look with a chic twist on it, then maybe using a more stylized typeface. Let's say you're playing around with illustrations, then maybe you want to use more of a decorative typeface, one that looks a little more silly goofy. You know what I have yet to see? Somebody use Comic Sans. I know it's a curse as a designer, but I would just really love to see somebody use Comic Sans on their portfolio. Like, and if they could make it work, badass, badass. If you find that, if you already know of that as a designer, you've seen it, please comment it down below. I don't know, I've kind of been having like this weird obsession with Comic Sans recently. Like every time I see it, I get a little happy. I used to have the inverse effect where it's like every time I saw it, I got really angry, and now every time I see it, I get a little happy. I get a little impressed when it works too. I don't know why I felt the need to share that. Anyway, I also started liking Canva recently, like a lot. I don't know what's happening. Are we on step number 4? I lost count. And I'm reading it. I think we're on step 4. If we're not, let's just say we are. Okay, step 4 is do not be afraid to explain your work, explain your process, explain the role that you played in creating whatever it is you created. And this is where some people mess up, because some people get really into showcasing the work, they make the portfolio super stylized, but then they don't actually explain what it is the work they're showcasing is. And I've seen this happen a lot where people are viewing portfolios, especially hiring managers, and they do look out for those explanations a little bit more than you expect. Now, granted, no one's asking you to be a writer extraordinaire, but you want to make sure that you're communicating to the audience that not only can you make something look pretty, but you can understand what it is that makes this work. You want to show intentionality, you want to show your process. That's the whole point. Another really great way to show process is show your sketches, show your inspiration, show your Pinterest board, show what you pulled from. Not literally show your Pinterest board. I more so mean something like this. But you want to show your art director, your hiring manager, whoever's looking at your portfolio, there's intentionality. Because design is not just about making a great work of art. That's one part of it, but it's also about communicating a message. And in order to communicate a message, you have to really understand the brief. Okay, tip number 5. How do you actually put together the body of work that you're gonna show? Okay, the first part of this is I would like you to expand whatever circle of work you're pulling from. You should be pulling from school projects. You should be pulling from projects you did when you were first starting out. Make up a project, make something up. I mean, 2 of the videos I've done on my YouTube channel were just me making up projects. The first one being me designing a brand based off of Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso, and the second one being me designing an app based off of Bridgerton. I mean, the possibilities are endless. If you don't want to totally invent a new project, you can reinvent an old project. But you do want to save yourself from the trap of just trying to put anything in your portfolio. This comes into the second part of this tip. You do not have to put in everything. You just have to make sure that it's your best work. Because remember, when somebody's coming across your portfolio, this is what they're gonna know about you as a designer. They're not gonna really be like, oh, this is their best work and this is kind of their okay work. They're gonna look at this as this is their work. So you wanna make sure that you're going for quality over quantity. Now, typically the standard amount of projects to have in a portfolio is anywhere from 10 to 15. But I think it's more important that you have 10 really amazing projects that you feel strongly about that can showcase your range than 15, some amazing and some kind of not great projects that are more so to fill up the pages. And also, when I say showcase your range, I'm not saying that you have to showcase every last bit of your skill, but you should be showcasing the things you are strongest at. For me, one of those skills is brand identity design. So I have a whole portion of my portfolio dedicated to that. Tip number 6, you always want to make sure you say thank you, because it's important to have manners. Okay, actually that was it for the video. I didn't know it was over either, honestly. I think I started to write something and then I kind of just scribbled it off and I ended. Oh, I have a last tip. is show your friends, show your family members, show everybody you can, and ask them if they like the portfolio. You should. It's always good to get a second opinion, if you ask me. Okay, that is the video. I hope you guys found those tips helpful. I hope that the resources I provided in the description box are also helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. I would be more than happy to answer. And if there are enough, I will do part 2 to this. Okay, I love you so much. Happy portfolio creating. Bye-bye.